Hi guys, thanks for joining the QLC Fireside today. Today we're going to be talking about digital marketing concepts and how to really attract the right customers to join your startup. Today we're very lucky to have Derrick Kwa join the call. He's a good friend of mine. He used to run his own marketing agency. Just a bit of context, he's serial entrepreneur, traveled around the world, also played a bit of semi professional poker as well. And currently he's running a new business that helps millennials find their career and follow their passions in a short 22-week email course. So thanks for joining today's call, Derrick.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, so I guess today the focus on is, trying to understand what you did with your previous startup, Thousand True Fans. From what you told me, it's all about helping, as a marketing agency, helping your clients find the right customers, win their customers' hearts, and get the ones to come back and spread the love and spread the word of what they do.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me a bit about what makes a true fan, what makes a true early adopter of a business or a startup?
So when we talk about true fans, we're talking about customers who really love your brand, who keep coming back to you, who are people who aren't gonna, bargain on price, who really trust you, really love you, will tell all their friends about you, and all of that. Right? And ultimately, that comes down to kind of an emotional connection, right? And people form connections with brand based on shared values, based on wanting to be a part of a community. And that's the biggest part about what we try to do. We help brands really understand who they are, really kind of solidify your positioning, your brand values, personality, and nail down that specific tribe of people who you want to reach, and connect with them on a deeper emotional level.
So let's talk about how that actually um, falls within the realm of the startup space. So you have users, you have paying customers. That's what we discussed last week. How do these true friends differentiate from the typical individual that comes to your website, signs up? Is there like a certain characteristic that you look out for? Is there a particular trait, or you say identify the targeted pool of true fans? How do you find that tribe?
So in terms of traits in terms of metrics wise, these are the people who are going to be the ones who recommend you, right? As a startup, especially, the word of mouth aspect is really important, right? So these are the people who are going to be telling their friends about you, as opposed to, I guess, a lot of early adopters will, just the nature of early adopters, right? You try new things and you hop onto new things really quickly, versus the ones who really love what you do and will back you and stick with you throughout. In terms of how you do that, a large part, and I think the part that a lot of businesses overlook, is really really going deep into who your audience are. Like as an agency, when we do audience kind of profiling for our clients, right, it goes beyond just demographics to almost as if you're writing a novel and you're creating a character of one individual person. Give that ideal customer a name, a specific age, what's a typical day in their life like, what do they read, what are their biggest fears, what do they think about throughout the day, and to really get into their head so that you can speak to this person really effectively. And you're gonna leave out like 80% of people, but the 20% that you do hit are gonna care a lot more about what you say.
So that's actually really interesting because, as an early stage startup, you realize how key it is to have your early adopters, to have those, true fans come to you in the beginning, spread the word, really try to give you feedback and provide context on how you can improve your service. So on your website, you mentioned that a lot of businesses don't know how to convert customers into true fans. Why is that the case? Is it something that we just completely miss out on, or?
I mean, as a business, especially like as a business owner, it's very easy to get kind of caught up in your day-to-day, caught up in tactics, and it's very easy to kind of lose the forest and the trees, right? In that sense. And you try different things and you want to just make it, it's very easy to get caught up in the numbers of people going through your door versus the smaller number of people who keep coming back, the vanity metrics of new customers, number of likes, etc., that of people that might not actually be engaged with you, but the numbers sound bigger and it's easier to fall into that trap, right? Of 1,000, like 100K people just going through your door versus 2,000 people who come back every other day.
So how would you so let's talk about in the context of technology businesses. How do you like quantitatively or qualitatively identify those true fans? And when you actually find them, how do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them stimulated? Is it as simple as having a conversation, setting up Skype calls? What do you need to do to find the right people and actually try to convert them into, full evangelists of what your product is?
I mean, in terms of finding the right people, it's about, mostly about understanding them at a better level, right? Knowing where they hang out, etc. And on the digital level, with the amount of targeting that's available these days, that's not super hard, right? But really kind of identifying those customers who are gonna keep coming back, etc. That's the bigger challenge, and I think a lot of, not even just startups, a lot of businesses in general, you leave word of mouth, etc., to chance, right? And it's people understand the importance of word of mouth, but they don't. You think about like restaurants, even, right? Word of mouth is huge, but there's nothing that they do to really measure and analyze and control that situation. It's when your customers feel like talking about you, they will. So one of the things we love to do that I'm a huge fan of is the Net Promoter Score system, which is basically reaching out to your customers, send out the system we set up for a couple of people, like Anielka and such, was that you set up basically asking your customers simple question of how likely are you to recommend us to your friends, right? Scale of 1 to 10. And using that, you can segment out the people who are really likely to recommend you, the people who really love you, right? So the 1 to 6, you filter towards customer service because they probably haven't had the best experience. 7 to 8 are kind of the neutral ones, so where you can kind of filter towards the your standard promotions and such. And the people who answer 9 to 10 are the ones who are really going to love you, and you want to engage them as much as possible. You want to engage them right then as well, right? Immediately once they say yes, I'm really likely to recommend you, they're primed, they're in that mindset. That's when you hit them with, so do you mind sharing this link, or maybe you could give us some feedback on this, and build that list of really dedicated users from there.
That's actually it sounds like a really simple but quantitative approach to measure whether or not people are A, happy with your stuff, and B, whether or not you have true fans. What happens if you don't have anyone that gives you a 9 out of 10? What happens if
then that's when you have to kind of reevaluate what you're doing, right? And take into account your feedback, etc., and how you can improve that. Right? This in itself, it gives you a good quantitative overview of even how many of your customers, like what proportion of your customers really like you. and what's the overall score, right?
And how do you like manage these, segments of customers? So you say that of the, 100%, 80%, you don't really focus on the remaining 20%, the true fans. What does a business need to do to manage, manage their engagement, manage their interest, manage their excitement about what you do?
I think a lot of times it's just engagement, right? And the part that I think a lot of businesses overlook is rewarding these people. Right? And these are people who love you, who are really gonna want to talk about you, who really believe in what you do, etc. And rewards don't have to be monetary. Right? Rewards can be, here's a sneak peek behind the scenes. As an agency, we worked a lot with restaurants and retail stores and such. So, for example, for a restaurant, if it's a restaurant that I go back to, once a week and I really love them, imagine if I receive an email of, come down, bring your best friend down, and we'll create a special appetizer designed just for you, right? It doesn't take much additional cost. Rewards don't really have to be monetary with a lot of these people. Right? It's just about getting recognized and that appreciation aspect.
Can you walk us through like the process of how a startup could actually implement that into their process? It sounds as though you need to send out the survey, you need to come up with a good engagement or excitement strategy for the true fan, and then actually execution at minimal cost. Like how does that work? How did you come up with these ideas for your customers? Maybe use a case study in the past that you did.
The simplest, in terms of technical wise, the simplest way that I'm still a huge fan of is like email marketing, right? Just in a MailChimp, segment your customer list based on the responses, and just in terms of frequency of connection, the type of things you send out. So, for example, for NALCA, when we segmented their customers, we would, the strategy was, segment the customers, the people who really love you, send them a newsletter maybe once or twice a week, versus the people who are average, you send them more discount codes, etc. And you tweak the kind of content based on that level of engagement and the number of asks as well.
Does this process continuously evolve? How do you essentially manage your time as a business, focusing on growing your general pool of customers, but also having your true fans? Like, what sort of dedication, time, financials, efforts in marketing do you actually put towards these fans?
I think at different stages it probably differs a bit. When you're a startup at the super early stage, right, you want to get, it's about building that audience more than the loyalty engagement aspect per se. Going from like 0 to the first 100,000 users, etc. But as you go, that that kind of defensive versus offensive marketing, right, of focusing on engagement versus focusing on building that audience, right? After you hit a certain point, and that point really differs on company by company, what you want to achieve, etc. But once you hit that kind of critical mass, the word of mouth, etc., carries you a lot further. And and so we generally would start with, at the early stage, a lot of kind of lead generation techniques, right? So one thing that I'm finding a lot of consumer brands, somehow that I've never understood why consumer brands don't do, is the lead magnet approach, right? So as a B2B business, you see a lot of design agencies, etc. Right? They release free white papers. Enter your email address to download this free PDF report, right? And then they'll sell to you over the email sequence. And that's something that I've never understood why consumer businesses don't do as much. So for example, for Anelka is an e-commerce jewelry store. So what we did for them was create a free PDF download on like identifying your own style. We did one targeted at women about identifying your style and kind of almost a slight lookbook based on different personality types. And we did one targeted at men on like how to like top 10 tips for getting the perfect piece of jewelry for your girlfriend, right? And you use that to build your email list, and then you sell over email lists as opposed to running direct ads, right? And that in itself, right, it builds that engaged audience, and you're doing it in a way that provides value and builds trust. So at your initial stages, that's a lot of that kind of outbound focus to do that in that way. But down the line, once you have a lot more customers, you can lower that percentage and skew up the focus on engagement, the focus on kind of nudging your customers to come back more.
That's actually really good insight. What I'm interested to know more about is this new passion project that you're working on, Passion Blueprint, which is, follow your passion. Here's a 2-week email course to help you, surpass obstacles. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah. So with Passion Blueprint, I'm in the middle of creating the full program, but Passion Blueprint in itself, the main idea is to help individuals do more of what they love, right? A lot of people, so it's kind of it's kind of similar to what you guys are doing at KOC actually, but how I see it is you at KOC, you're providing kind of general experiences people can try, etc. What I want to do with Passion Blueprint is and what I'm going to sell eventually with Passion Blueprint for a start is personalized, custom for you plans, right? So individualized kind of coaching sessions where you'll come up with a specific plan designed for you, your passion, what's important to you, and so that you can start pursuing what you love. So almost as like custom tailor versus general code store idea. And so the first part of that was that free 2-week email course where a lot of people, I think the biggest thing that holds people back from doing what they love is that fear. And you have very standard similar barriers that people always say they face, right? Lack of time, lack of money, I'm not good enough, I don't know how to do this, I don't know the right people. Those are probably the most common, like 4 or 5 excuses or reasons people give. So in this course, it's a free 2-week email course that goes through each of these barriers with a small exercise on how to slowly move past it. The idea of being that confidence comes through small victories, and so you take small actions, and it slowly builds up your confidence to really take that dive.
So it sounds like I'm just taking a look at the website now. You have 7 lessons over 2 weeks. So it's maybe 1 email every 2 days, and each email would be tips and tricks on how to take the next step to do the thing that you're passionate about. Tell me more about how you identify true believers and users that truly love that taste test that you're providing. How do you actually quantitatively measure who's a good true fan to start pursuing and asking questions about the next product that you're potentially going to upsell them to?
So I mean, the basic initial basic things would be things like the open rates of emails, like the ones who are actually reading, how many of the 7 lessons have they actually read. Each lesson ends with like an action point and like call to action. So trying to measure which of the people do respond to that, and at the end of the course, I'm basically going to do the same thing at the end of the course, put them through that net promoter score system of you just took this course, how was it for you, how likely are you to recommend this, right? Probably phrase it in a slightly more human way, but the idea is it's the same concept, right? Basically asking them how much they liked it and what it did for them.
So we have about 5 minutes left with this fireside chat. We have a few questions that are coming in. For the viewers on the call now, you can type in the Q&A section, and I'll just read it out for Derrick to answer. But we've just had another question come in. And just a bit of context, Derrick, we're running a lot of QLC projects where new candidates are helping out early stage businesses. Now, and the question is, if they wanted to implement it for an e-commerce business in New Zealand, for example, how do they come about doing it? Do they segment the customers based on a particular vertical, or do they, do a shotgun approach and go for everyone? What's the quickest and the quickest and swiftest way to get this up and running?
The quickest way is probably just honestly send out a quick 1-question survey to your whole customer list and segment based on that, and just build your kind of 3 separate columns in your autoresponder sequence. That's probably the fastest, easiest way of doing that.
So tell me a bit more about the autoresponder sequence. You sound like you do a lot of automation with MailChimp. Can you explain a bit about that with the users?
I'm a huge believer in email marketing, I think. So yeah, it's basically just creating that newsletter, and based on what they reply, tag them with the 3 separate categories, and creating almost like creating a separate newsletter for each of them, right? So for each of the categories, so the type of things that you send to your most loyal fans are firstly much more regular, and secondly kind of much deeper, much less here's a discount, because you don't need to offer these deeper discounts, right?
We have another question from Daniel, and he's interested in asking, how do you profile a true fan for your business? So earlier you said that you look at the demographics, the age, the gender. Is that high level approach best, or do you actually start by segmenting at a much detailed level?
I think the first part is always kind of the big picture strategy, so at Launch True Fans, whenever we started a new project with anyone, right, it always involves an initial 2 or 3 hour strategy session, right? And in that session, we dive into a lot of kind of branding questions, right? Of what you want your brand to stand for, the brand personality, questions of if your company was an animal, what animal would it be and why? And really going into really nailing down that personality, that voice, right? And then the second part of that is nailing down who you want to reach, right? And I think a lot of businesses have an idea of their target audience in terms of age range, rough demographic, 18 to 25, etc. But what I really believe in is really going super deep into one person, right? So picture one ideal customer, give this person a name, give this person a photo, a specific age, not a range, a specific job. Pretend you're writing a story about that person's life, and go as deep as possible as you can, and you'll get insights into things that they care about, etc., that you might not otherwise realize from kind of that broad big picture.
So it sounds as though when you do the consulting service for the company, it's focusing on one person, one photograph, one one particular archetype. One question that came through is, how do we best profile when there's more than one potential market? In that case, do you split it up, or do you still go back to your guns and say you only want to target one person?
In general, we try not to do more than maybe at the most 3 or 4 avatars. If you really have kind of a broad market range, you can create 2 or 3 customer avatars. But what the challenge of going too broad is that you can't speak to everyone, right? And so the more broad you go, the harder it is to speak kind of on a deeper level and really connect with that person you want to reach, right? So we always recommend ideally one, maybe two. That's what we personally try and stick to.
Cool. And a final question: why did you stop playing poker?
Firstly, I took a few shots at like tournaments that were out of my bankroll, which I knew were out of my bankroll, and was kind of just like, this is too expensive for me, but screw it, it'll be fun. Let me take a shot, and lost a bunch of money. And the second part of that was I started 1,000 True Fans, and kind of most of my capital went into that agency. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for your time today. For those on the call and those listening to this podcast, if you have any other questions, we'll be loading this video onto our forum. But again, thanks so much again, Derrick. Really appreciate the
Yeah, no
time.
problem. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks. We'll close the call. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.